The capacity to be alone is the capacity to love. The more you are able to live alone, the more you are able to love. But what we see is the other way around. A man seeks a girlfriend or a wife because he is afraid of being alone. A woman seeks a boyfriend or a husband because she is afraid of being alone. Being alone is not bad. Being lonely is bad. When you feel lonely, it means you are dependent on others. Your happiness is dependent on others. However, when you are not dependent on others for happiness, only then you enjoy your aloneness. Then you are no more lonely. You are alone and you enjoy your aloneness. A person born in Magha Nakshatra has the capacity to live alone. He can understand the beauty of being alone. A person born in Magha Nakshatra is more of an individual. He loves to live his life by being yourself. And a real royal person is not the one who lives in palaces, but the person who can be himself, who can live his life by being yourself, who is no more following the crowd, but he is following his heart. Someone who is aware that truth happens not to the crowd, but to an individual. A Magha Nakshatra native person is highly individualistic, and if the person is an evolved soul, then he will not care for what the society says. He will simply follow his heart, and many a times he has to face a lot of opposition from the society, because the society never likes an individual. The society always wants somebody who will fit in, not somebody who will stand out. The society always fears an individual. And Magha is an individual. A person born in Magha Nakshatra can easily let go, especially if the horoscope is of good quality. If the horoscope has a certain spiritual inclination, then a person born in Magha Nakshatra can easily let go. That reminds me of a beautiful story. There was a great saint, and he used to live in a small house. And one night, a thief entered his house. And the master was aware of it. So he switched on the lights and said to the thief, "You don't worry, you don't fear, you can take whatever you want from this house." The thief started shivering because this was something else. Whole life people have been beating him, handing him over to the police. But this man is something. He is saying that take whatever you want to take. So he hesitated. But the master said, "Please don't hesitate. Whatever you want to take, please take it. I have lots of food. Please take it. And you also take this blanket because it is very cold outside." So now the thief started crying, because his whole life Everybody have been so bad with him. But this man, he was not at all angry at him. He was not scolding him. He was not beating him. He was not even threatening him that he will hand him to the police. And he could see that there was so much love in this man's eyes. He started crying. The master said, "Why you cry? I know your family is starving from last 2 days. So pick up whatever you want to. And before you leave, please take this blanket with you. You will need it." The thief collected whatever he wanted to collect. And then finally he took the blanket and he went away. And it is said that at that night, the master looked at the moon and said that if it was possible, I could have given him the moon also. So that is how the compassion of the master is. That is how a large-hearted, a Magha person is. Paramahans Yogananda was born on Magha Nakshatra. His moon was in Magha Nakshatra. So there are many things to share. So let's begin with this podcast. Moon in Magha Nakshatra.
Magha moon signify a deep thinker, a philosophical person who seeks wisdom and knowledge. Inclination towards studies is one strong trademark of this nakshatra. The person does extremely well in his or her academic studies. They have the potential to become gold medalist by scoring great marks in university exams. Ashwini is the playground where Ketu enjoys playing and doing all kinds of adventures. However, in Magha, Ketu becomes serious. Just the way when you reach your office, you become serious because now you are in your workplace. Similarly, the domain of Magha is a workplace for Ketu, where Ketu does his work very diligently. In simple words, this placement makes the person a workaholic. He is often found to be too busy in his work. Ketu brings a certain level of intelligence to the native, due to which the native becomes very innovative in his work. Many times, such a native comes forth with new ideas and strange concepts that work wonders and eventually gives a boost to his or her career. These are very intelligent fellows because when the moon is in Magha, the person puts the intelligence to work, which yields great benefits for the native. And so Magha always brings much richness and glory to the native because it is only here that Ketu yields its creativity to the fullest. Remember, creativity is possible only when you step out of the logical world and step inside the world of imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. Logic is limited. However, imagination can take you everywhere. Albert Einstein, a great scientist, always emphasized on the significance of imagination because it is only through imagination that you can create the wonders of life. In fact, all the 7 wonders of this human world are created out of imagination and not by logic. Ketu is beyond logic, and that is why Ketu can give birth to the great wonders of this world. Magha is one such nakshatra of Ketu, which is very much creative by nature because it falls in the most intelligent and creative sign of the zodiac, the sign of Leo, the sign of the glorious divine sun. Magha is also very romantic by nature. The word romance means adventure. And so to Magha, life is boring without romance. That is, life is boring without an adventure. These folks like to travel without a map, without using GPS, because they love the thrill of exploring the unknown places and the challenges that they may come up with. They are generally those kind of men who don't like to sit at home. They like to travel, they like to explore and learn. Learning is one very significant trait of Magha moon. The native is a good learner and in fact loves to learn throughout his life. For him, learning never stops. Natives born on Magha believe that you should never stop learning. You learn something new every day. The native always tries to learn something new every day. He staunchly believes that one should never stop learning because life never stops teaching. Many a times after completing their schooling, these natives are confused on which field of education they should opt for. Whether they should enroll for a science stream or commerce stream or arts stream. And many a times they end up choosing a wrong field of education. For example, they may want to become a theologist, but they end up becoming a geologist. That reminds me of a beautiful story. There was a young man. His name was Abdul. And Abdul must be a Magha native because he was a unique person with great intelligence. Intellectuality is a poor substitute for intelligence. Abdul was not intellectual, he was intelligent. He was a man of heart. He wanted to become a theologist. A theologist is one who professes or practices that which relates or pertains to God. And so young Abdul arrived at the Oxford University to seek admission. The clerk asked him, "What do you want to study?" So he said theology. But the clerk understood geology. And Abdul was a shy man. The clerk wrote geology. He saw that it was geology. But Abdul was so shy that he didn't say anything. He said, "Okay." He studied geology. After studying geology 6 years, he graduated with a gold medal. Then he revealed to people that it was a complete mishap. I had come to study theology and unfortunately became a geologist. And no trivial geologist, a gold medalist. Now he was trapped for his whole life. Now there was no remedy for it. And then he said, "No one knows the troubles I passed through in those 6 years. In complete bashfulness and hesitation, 1 year passed. Then I thought that telling it now would be even more idiotic. Why did you waste a year? Then 2 years passed. Now it would be even more idiotic. And then I got 1 degree. And it was more difficult yet. Then I thought, what was to happen has happened. It was God's wish that I become a geologist. So I will die as a geologist." He became one of the world's renowned geologists. He went for devotional singing, but ended up gaining cotton. This is what happens when one is born in Magha. They set out on a journey towards Delhi, but end up reaching Mumbai. However, even in such a confused state of mind, some evolved men and women end up reaching to a destination that they never had thought of, but found it to be more rewarding than the one that they had set out for. Neem Karoli Baba used to say, often one goes for one thing and finds another. On a positive note, by the blessings of the Divine Master, a spiritual person with moon in Magha may go for one thing and find another. And that which he finds is indeed far more beautiful than what he was seeking. However, for someone who is still at the base level of consciousness, someone who has still not started turning inwards, for such a man, there is always a confusion in selecting the right marriage partner, or the right profession, or the right educational field. And many of them end up making a wrong choice. I knew one young man, and he was a handsome young man, having his moon in Magha Nakshatra, and he was looking for a suitable marriage partner. Of course, it was an arranged marriage, and one day I met him accidentally with his newly married wife, and I was shocked because she looked so dull, and then there were certain features of her face that instantly gave me an indication that this man has invited a big trouble for himself. Eventually, after 2 years, they got divorced. It was bound to happen because the choice itself was a wrong choice. Magha men or women often are found to be unhappy in marriage, and the primary reason is their confusion, which leads them to making a wrong choice. Ketu creates a fog, and if you don't have good fog headlights, then you are bound to hit at a wrong place, leading to an accident. Divorce is also an accident that happens because the confusion called fog leads you to making a wrong choice. The same thing happens when you are seeking a girlfriend or a boyfriend. Many a times the native is confused in his or her love relationships. They wonder whether the person they love also loves them back in the true sense. This confusion often leads to a breakup, because the more the confusion in relationship, the more is the misunderstanding. And misunderstandings is often the major reason for breakups. Always remember, the greatest distance between two people is misunderstanding. And some misunderstandings are hard to cure. Misunderstanding in love is a big reason for a breakup. In Ashwini, Ketu is not interested in schemes and intrigues, but in Magha, Ketu is fully active in all kind of plots, schemes and intrigues. And so when moon is in Magha, the person takes keen interest in all kind of schemes and intrigues. That is why this nakshatra is closely related with the royal lineage, because when it comes to power, politics is always active. Many natives with this placement are found in royal circles or are associated with people in power. These natives are not intellectual but highly intelligent beings, and so before you cross them or offend them, think twice, because they can really make you run for your life. They are dangerous opponents. They are good fighters, but they will always fight from the front and not from the back. After all, they belong to the royal sign of Leo, the lion. Paramahams Yogananda was born with moon in Magha, and his ascendant rising nakshatra was also Magha, and so he was a complete Magha. The great Prime Minister of England, Margaret Thatcher, was also born with moon in Magha. She was the longest serving British Prime Minister of the 20th century, and she was the first woman to hold the office of British Prime Minister. As a Prime Minister, she implemented policies that became known as Thatcherism. She was addressed as the Iron Lady, a nickname that became associated with her uncompromising politics and leadership style. Being a Magha, she is a perfect example of an individualist. One of her significant quotes is, "Don't follow the crowd, let the crowd follow you." Magha natives have strong opinions. Margaret Thatcher had a very strong opinion on the efficiency of women. She quotes, "In politics, if you want anything said, ask a man. If you want anything done, ask a woman." Magha native indeed are highly enthusiastic fellows. They are playful, individualistic, and highly opinionated folks. We will now quickly see the results of moon in the 4 padas of Magha Nakshatra. In pada 1, you will find a highly spiritual person. He or she may belong to a certain spiritual sect, excellent for higher education, may travel to a foreign land for spreading the light of wisdom. Generally is a father's boy, meaning he loves his father much. Father of the native is much attached to the native, though the native may remain detached with his father. This is a highly philosophical placement, can give birth to a great philosopher and a religious man, or it can also give birth to a highly spiritual person who rises above all religions and attains the oneness that prevails in this universe. Attainment of non-duality, Advait, is possible with this placement. Indeed, a very fortunate placement for spiritual seekers. In fact, birth on this pada is a sign that the person have been on the spiritual path for several past births. For less evolved souls also, this is a fortunate placement, provided Mars is well placed in their horoscope. Generally, with the placement of moon in this pada, the person attains success in life after the age of 28. This is a good placement for those whose aim is to become a doctor or a PhD holder, or whose career is connected to the higher realms of consciousness. Many great professors, writers, academicians, and doctors are born with moon in pada 1. This is also a good placement for those who wish to become a life coach or an executive coach. Pada 2. People born on this pada are highly career-oriented people. This placement brings much ambition, and the person is born to attain certain ambitious goals of his life. This is also a wonderful placement for doing business. Many businessmen born with moon in pada 2 succeed much early in life. In their early 20s, they strike gold. That is, they become fortunate, they attain fortune, and then there is no looking back. This is a placement that provides you with much sexual pleasures and comforts of life. Overall, this is an excellent placement for material success. The person shines and loves to flaunt his or her assets. To these men and women, pride matters above all, and so for pride and prestige, they may go to any extent. The basic essence of this placement is that these folks desire to live with much pomp. They love to show off. To them, life is perfect when they get attention from their friends and family persons. The more attention they get, the more likes they get, the more they are happy. A highly materialistic placement, but overall good considering it brings much wealth and prestige to the native. This is excellent placement for filmmakers, actors, actresses, artists, singers and dancers. Person born in Pada 2 should definitely try to make a career in the field of arts. A good surgeon is also possible with this placement since surgery is also a form of art. Pada 3. When moon is in Pada 3, the native is like a pug. Pugs are so friendly. They are small in size but lovable. So are these fellows. They are friendly by nature. They also take great interest in reading books on various subjects. Magazines, newspapers, gossips, and lots of conversations over a cup of hot coffee is what these folks like. Talkative and social by nature, they generally are attracted towards intelligent people. They like to have debates. This placement does makes the person sexual by nature. The person may go through several sexual affairs. With this placement, the person gets a girlfriend or boyfriend with much ease. Native is lucky when it comes to money because he or she never falls short of money. Overall, this is a good placement for earning good amount of money as well as getting most of the wishes fulfilled. A fortunate placement indeed. Career in IT industry, career in newspaper, news media, advertising or PR agencies or any business related with communication is good for the native's overall growth. Pada 4. When moon is in Pada 4, this is the most vulnerable placement. Mood swings and indecisiveness is a trademark of this placement. This placement is also not good for a happy marriage life. Instability is yet another feature of this placement. However, this is a good placement for foreign settlement. If the level of the horoscope is good and the person is inclined towards spirituality, then this placement can become positive for meditation. Such a person keeps many things to himself and generally does not reveal his real thoughts, his opinions, or his feelings about others. Sometimes moon in this pada is a sign of low confidence. The person struggles to gain confidence during the early days of his life. Ideally, this is not good placement for the mother of the native. Either the mother is absent for most of the time or the native constantly feels that he is being ignored by his mother. This can be a good placement for doctors, nurses and psychologists. In case the horoscope is weak or of poor quality, then the native may come in contact with prison. He may spend a day or two in a lockup. He may have to climb the stairs of the court at some stage of his or her life. Overall, this placement is not much favorable, though it is good for medical practitioners, for lawyers, for police, and for disaster management people. For a sannyasi, for a monk or a sadhu, this placement is highly eventful. Since such a person goes through many spiritual experiences and in the process evolves to greater heights of consciousness. Although Ketu is spiritual by nature, still there is also an essence of tamas gun in Ketu. Because to burn the baggage of many sins, one needs the fire of tamas guna. Ketu represents this fire, which is quite moderate in Magha. However, by the time it reaches Mula, this fire is transformed in a massive earthquake, which I will be covering in my next episode. The Aradhya Devata, that is the deity of Magha Nakshatra, is Trimurti, the Holy Trinity. It comprises of the Creator, Brahma, the Preserver, Lord Vishnu, and the Destroyer, Lord Shiva. It is the only nakshatra where all the three supreme divine energies, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, come together. Magha therefore is the throne of supreme powers, a throne on which all the three energies, Rajas, that is Brahma, Satvik, that is Vishnu, and Tamas, that is Shiva, come together. The tree that represents the energy of Magha is the banyan tree, a tree that was very dear to Buddha. I personally connect Magha with Lord Dattatreya because the three faces of Lord Dattatreya represent Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, that is Shiva. So, Lord Dattatreya is the only deity that represents all the three energies, Rajas, Satvik, and Tamas, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. I prostrate before Lord Dattatreya. Magha is therefore a workplace of Ketu, where all kind of spiritual activities take place. You can say that Magha is a matured and a moderate version of Ketu, and hence much material progress happens on the nakshatra of Magha. Magha indeed provides much wealth and power to the native. I humbly prostrate before the nakshatra of Magha. May his blessings shower upon me and all my followers. In very simple words, Magha moon is a sign that through his divine intelligence, the native has the potential to offer something unique, something beautiful to this human world. Jai Sri Ganesha, Jai Guru. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.